Welcome to the Recruitment Equation, the no-nonsense podcast where we get real about what it takes to succeed in talent acquisition. We're diving into the world of recruitment, the wins, the challenges, and everything in between. From innovative strategies to unfiltered conversations with industry leaders, we're here to give you the insights you need to elevate the way you attract and hire. This episode is supported by Beyond Talents and Develop Diverse, your partner for future-proof talent attraction. Let's get started. Wonderful. Welcome to the Recruitment Equation. Today we have a special guest. We have you visiting, Mads. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much. I've been looking forward to joining the podcast.
Very good. And of course, wonderful co-host, Nicklas.
Hi, Pete.
So good to have you here. I'm always looking forward to these sessions together. Today we're going to have, I've been asking around for feedback, and everyone that I ask about, what we should be talking about on these podcasts, they want to talk about AI. And of course, we know here that AI, and everyone knows AI can be a lot of different things. But Mads, you recently wrote an article on the topic that we'll dig more into. But before we go all that, nitty-gritty and into the details, I really want to just, have yourself introduce yourself, because I can, of course, cite your whole LinkedIn CV, but I think it is more interesting that you get to just introduce yourself briefly here.
Thank you very much. I will start by saying thanks for having me here. I've been looking forward to this conversation today. I've spent the last 15 years within the HR area in positions in Dansk Erhverv, Covi, Rambo, Maersk, and recently 6 years in Falck as the head of HR operation, an HR organization for 8,000 employees in Falck. All kinds of services, HR services to the business, talent acquisition, business partnering, training, labor relations, operation, payroll, etc. And then I've also been part of the global HR team supporting 25,000 employees globally. And I have a great interest in transforming HR, building strong HR operations and operating models, delivering service to the business. And I'm very passionate about rethinking, disrupting HR, working smarter as a HR function. And right now I'm between jobs and looking for my next career step, hopefully as a chief people officer. And I was spending some time gaining knowledge and experience within the AI field and looking deeper into that. And I thought it was a huge topic. And I needed to write down all my reflections in this article. So it's also a bit for my own sake. I've done this because I think this is new and there's a lot happening all the time. So, so that's I'm here today.
Wonderful. But I think, so also Nicklas and I, we meet a lot of both HR leaders and talent acquisition leaders, recruitment leaders. I think, how do I phrase this? It's not everyone who is really passionate about transforming HR and using AI or Gen AI or other types. How did you really get into that, or what sparked that interest for you and got you started?
I'm very happy about my time in Falck, and I'm very happy that the top management decided to embark on the AI journey very early on. Had their own chat GPT, sort of a secure playing ground. Also had a AI tech team looking into this field. Yeah. So I have been playing around for a couple of years, trying this and taking the first baby steps. I think that's where that's why I'm here today, because of that. And I think you need to have that playful approach, but then also moving to the next step.
Yeah, I'm curious about some of the skeptics in the people HR community. They are very much why introduce AI? It's the human touch. We need to be humans working with humans. What do you think about that statement or that position that some people in our field they take on AI?
I fully understand that, but I think in all the positions I've been in, there's not time in HR. There's not time for supporting the services to the organization, service to employees and managers. And I think this is a huge step in actually gaining that time and be more having more time, because what we experience today, it's sort of self-service, all of it. We have a toolbox or a website we can look into, but actually have talking to a human, there might not be time for that. And I think that's an important part of this, that you can actually create that and create that space. And then I also think it's not only AI; it's a combination between AI and the people that makes sense, because you will gain. You'll probably experience yourself when you use ChatGPT or other AI tools, that you gain superpowers and you can actually work smarter and quicker. And then, but of course, there's this human aspect of it. Where will we be in the future? I think there will be a huge space for humans. We need to connect the dots. We need to look into this space and be creative, be innovative.
Because I also, of course there's skepticism and skeptics whenever there's change. I think that is very natural. Yeah. But I also see a huge interest in, and of course often when we talk, and that's also what you said here, right? A lot of the GPTs you can develop internally using generative AI and large language models to actually generate some of the content or make it more efficient is what I hear. But I also, from the article that you're also writing here, and you said it a little bit before, it's nice to start playing around with it, but you're also saying that we should stop only playing around with it and take it to the next level.
Yeah.
As I'm reading your article, at least. Can you say a little bit more, put a little bit more words to that and what you mean there?
Yes, I think. Experimenting, familiarize yourself with the tool. That's a good start, and.
So, for an example, Copilot, GPT.
Exactly, and just to quote Ethan Mollick, who's a professor at Wharton's School of Business, and also written a great book called Co-Intelligence. I think you need to start small, but a planned long-term goal. I really like the approach that sort of small incremental steps that you take them, but at some point you also need to have that strategic and tactical approach and look a bit further. So where will we actually aim? And not only be satisfied with this 101 automation of one process, but actually look into how does this fit together? How can you connect the dots? How can you connect the AI agents to the system and so forth, and create an ecosystem that you can look into? And I think there's a lot of talk about AI, and everybody would like to be on the AI journey, but when you really ask them, what have you actually achieved? It's only sort of one automation of one process, and everybody is happy. And I think we need to aim higher, have a more strategic approach. But of course, if you haven't played around, you need to start there. You can't get the whole package in one step, and you have to have people on board, because it's your colleagues in the HR organization that will also need to assist you building this ecosystem and actually look into this. This is not only an IT project. This should be something for the whole organization and also HR. And I think HR plays a great role in this, both in the own organization, but also towards the rest of the organization. You're talking about a lot about talent acquisition. There's an important role for HR also to show that you are, or reflect that you are, an organization that are very much into AI. You also need to train the rest of the organization to be part of this journey. You develop the leadership model, and etc. So, and you have to build AI into all of this. to be part of the organization. I mean, if you are an organization that are keen to look into this and want to be part of this, then you also have to have a more strategic and tactical approach to this.
I actually really like that, that approach, because one thing I think is underestimated is that we all talk about companies should adopt AI, but that's a change management process, and where do change management live in the organization? Oftentimes, it should live in HR or the people organization. So we need to adopt AI for ourselves if we are to help the rest of the organization go through that change process. Yeah. So I really like that approach.
Yeah, and in all the organization I've been part of, you also had I've experienced this dynamic that everything is run by technology, and you have this belief that it's IT that owns this entirely, but there's also a certain hierarchy in an organization that you have a customer, you have some services, you have a product that and that's where you earn the money, and that's where IT will help in the first hand. And then IT suddenly becomes a bottleneck because you have this AI high-speed train sort of moving ahead, and you need to be there and be able to do something yourself, and not rely on an IT helping you all the time. I mean, you need to be your own AI Swiss Army knife, and not be an expert, but you need to have a certain degree that you can actually digitalize your own parts of the process. And then there can be a centralized AI team sort of ensuring governance and connect the dots, but all employees in HR, at least in my belief, need to be able to look into this. And be able to handle the AI tools. And I think the AI tools will also help you because prompting, asking the right questions, etc. I think the AI and AI agents will also help you in the future and can help you right now. And I think that's an important step, that you have this democratization of this area, that everybody should be able to coding and prompting.
Yeah. So it's also, the skill set also moves a little bit. Or so do we need to hire new people, or do we need to upskill the people that we have?
I think you should look into your organization and look into the AI tech readiness in your organization.
And how do you assess that?
I think you should look at your team's capabilities and competences and what kind of background do they come with. What I've experienced is that people will very much like to look into this, and I've been very reluctant during my time to introduce new technologies because people can be afraid of that. But within the last couple of years, I've actually experienced that people are like to look into this because that could actually help them with their manual tasks. Yeah. And nobody actually are keen or like to do repetitive tasks all the time. So people are more open towards the new technologies because they can actually see this help them in their daily work. So I think you need to have an open discussion. Where do we want to go? And then an assessment. What are the current capabilities in my organization? Who are tech AI ready? And then there needs to be upskilling and training for your current team. I also think, and I also mentioned that in my article, that you need to bring in new colleagues that maybe from Generation Z that are used to it's a digital generation,
native,
or you have
native in the digital
exactly
world.
Yeah, and you have or you have IT people who like to go to HR. So I think you will have more young people or younger generations, IT coming in, because I think the positions in HR will shift to more controlling data and so forth. And then, of course, also the frontline talent acquisition and so forth. There's specialties that you need to handle. But I think... new competences is probably also needed, and you have this mix between, hopefully someone looking ahead and someone who also know the business and know the organization. Yeah. So it's a nice mix, I would say.
Yeah. And we talk a little bit about AI agents. And I think for me, I remember I don't know how much you're into. Are you developing your own AI agents?
No.
No. I played around with it a bit, but it took me a while to sort of really grasp the idea of AI agents because a lot of the times these days, so I've been working, of course, with both natural language processing, NLP, and machine learning in the past because I have a software product. But I think these days is very much, generative AI as well, and sort of producing content and prompting that has become synonymous. I can't say that word. That has become
synonymous.
Equal. Yeah, exactly that word. Thank you, Nicklas. Always count on you. I'm happy about that. With the LLMs and prompting and AI all together, right? But I think, what are AI agents, and what did you use that, and have you used that, and what are they? I can also join in if you want, but.
What I've experienced, I think I've been at the same level as other organizations. I mean, the AI, we've been looking very much into the tech toolbox, and it has been automation, robotics, and we've been. I had an internal project team looking into what kind of tools, AI tools, can we use. I think where AI was during my time in Falck was at the state that we could look into and chatbots. We could look into using the large language models, talent acquisition, bias-free text, and so forth. So I haven't worked that much with agents. I think they are evolving right now as
it's
we
also
speak.
very much now, right?
So you and you have this incremental change that is just building up. So I think having these agents and that, when I looked deeper into this area, when I saw the AI agents, I said, this is now it's going to happen, because you can actually have AI agents that you prompt and ask the right questions, but also can act autonomously and act on their own behalf and say, okay, I actually need another AI agent. And suddenly you have a swarm of AI agents that are looking into process flows and actually building and helping your organization. And I think that's a very important step. I still think that there's a need for systems. You still need to keep employee data safe. There's GDPR regulations and so forth. So it's not the step that now you only have the AI agents. I think you still need the old systems, and then you have the AI agents that can actually help also be the glue between the different processes and again build this ecosystem. So you have sort of a red thread from A to Z in your ongoing processes and workflows, and that could help you with that. I also think I also looked into sort of stacking processes, and then again you use the foundation in the large language modules that you can have sort of your team assessment combined with your strategy, HR roadmap, and suddenly you can also look into performance review, salary, bonus processes, and combine those. And suddenly you can save a lot of time in both for yourself doing other stuff in HR, but also for your managers that are spending a lot of time on this. So I think there's also a huge gain there.
And where do you see that we shouldn't allow AI to go, and where the humans should enter a process or a decision and then say, okay, you have now taken it all the way to here, dear AI. Now I'm taking over as the human.
I think, you can use AI for a lot of stuff when you update processes and so forth. But when you make decisions, when you do people-related labor stuff, I think, or compliance stuff, I think in the end there needs to be a human touch. And you also need to look into the compliance part, because and we looked very much into that during my time in Falck, because even though you have your own secure playgrounds with your own internal GPT, you're not always sure who will actually gain access to this, and what will the GPT come up with when you ask it. So. Try to ensure that you have a secure box, that you have your employee data within, and you have some kind of governance towards this. And I also think when you get that and you grasp that, you can actually also look into, okay, do we actually need these systems? Because I think the next step is that somewhere in the cloud you have this secure box, and the AI agents can go in there and get the right information, and then you might not need the systems. I think I read an article about Workday the other day, and they have started to have a front end for AI agents towards this system. And I think at one point, probably many years ahead, but we will look into that the system will not be there. There will be a cloud version, and then you have AI agents sort of around that.
It's a big topic of discussion in the software world as well, and software sort of in my world, you could say, in industry. Because will AI agents sort of take over and just be that? You don't need to have software systems anymore. I think majority said, no, it won't happen. But there are some talk about that. So I think that's a very interesting talk, but I'll save that for another time. But I think there's still something, I think, it sounds easy. It sounds, for me, when we have this conversation, it sounds like, oh, that's easy. People should just do that. Just go ahead and do that. But there's still some hesitation in some organizations, or maybe there's a huge sort of potential and people are really curious and interested, but there's still some that are hesitating a little bit to take that step. Both because of the speed of development, I think, but also, where do we start? So for your experience and with your knowledge and experience so far, where do people start?
I think that first of all, you need to create this secure space that you can actually develop, and I think you as a management team need to walk the talk and ensure that you use the chat GPT or other tech tools yourself. I think the whole part about now we need to look into a lot of agents, create agents. I think you need this agile approach. You need this try and error approach, building that, and you need. You need people to be secure that we can actually make mistakes. Then also talk about openly, talk about the challenges, and talk about what are we afraid of when we look into this. But also talk about, as we talked about before, that there's also a huge room for the human touch still. This is just one tool. It's not a magic word that would just fix everything. There actually needs to be work done. And we need to find the right mix between the AI, other tech tools, and the HR employees.
Yeah.
So I think creating a psychological safe space around this is a very important step.
It's okay to make mistakes as well. So you need to, when we ask people to play around and also take it to the next step, we also can't blame them whenever something goes wrong.
Exactly.
Unless it's really bad for the business and we are losing a lot of data. And it's, I suppose, it's a hard one, right?
It is.
Because if you're not compliant, how do you do that? So I guess to also create the framework of where people within the psychological safe space, this is sort of the playground and defining what that looks like, and then play within those. Is that also part of it?
I think that's important part
as
of
a leadership, or is it?
Yeah, because I also mentioned that in the article. I see this sort of from the drone world, that you have all these drones, and I also link to sort of you have 5,000 drones flying together, and I have this sort of vision or picture when I look about this, or the ecosystem that you can build, and I mean, there could be something wrong with one drone or 10 drones, and you need to replace those. So I think the whole how they connect, but also that that you can actually adapt, and you can take these 10 drones out. Maybe that's the 10 drones that there might be a mistake with, and then we replace them with other drones, or when we are talking about HI, other processes, and then you go and fix that. So again, you need when you have a system, it can be very slow to make changes to that, and I hope at one stage we actually get to a more adaptable system that you can replace some of these agents. Agents at some point will suggest other agents or other workflows, and it will evolve in that way. So I think that's an important step.
Yeah. So both. You also talk about a new sort of HR operating model, but also then we need to, that incorporates AI and perhaps, make us more efficient, but also just saves us for all the tasks that we don't want to do. And then you talk about as well, we need to attract new talent. Of course, upskill, of course, but we also need to actually be able to attract new types of talent that we maybe haven't traditionally had in HR, is what I hear you say as well, right? So how do we do that? Because that's a big change as well. So there's a lot of changes here. How do we attract that talent in the first place to some organizations that may have a more traditional HR organizational operating model?
I think that that your whole TI process and your employer branding needs to reflect that you are an organization that would like to work with AI. There, I also think it's important that the people from HR that are sort of selling the company or attracting hopefully the right talents, they are also looking into this area and have a knowledge about AI. And I think so. I think the whole TA process should also reflect what are you as a new candidate? What are the first impression of the company? So I think you should also consider having AI agents conducting the first interview. And it can easily do that. It could have interviews with 50 candidates, no problem, and it will ask the same questions there. So I think at some point there's probably also an expectation from new candidates that you are met by something that looks like AI in the process. And then, of course, later on in the process, you will also meet real colleagues and real other humans. But I think there needs to be this combination. And I think HR has an important role in building the right culture and, as I said before, also building leadership models and so forth. What are the HR strategy for and the talent acquisition or talent track is a key focus for a lot of companies. And of course, that should also reflect what are the culture around here. We are an AI company, and I think all companies, regardless of what the services, products they deliver, there will be an AI part of that in the future.
Interesting future.
Yeah. Are you talk a lot with the teams out there, Nicklas, as well.
Yeah.
Do you see this reflected in the organizations when you support on the recruitment team?
There is a huge difference, like a huge difference. But what I actually see right now is that we have in the HR and the people space, oftentimes we say that startups and scale-ups or the small companies, they are further ahead of the big enterprises. Actually, in AI, I see the opposite, because they have capacity to actually put resources into looking into AI, where in smaller HR teams, they are just operating. They think it's interesting, but they can't figure out how to spend just 1 hour looking into it. Where the bigger companies, they are a bit more, looking into how can we make this more efficient.
I totally agree. I think also a lot of the big companies, they have service centers, it could be in Poland, it could be in India, and their main service is to work smarter. And they are definitely looking into this, how you can do things better. But what you're mentioning is the biggest problem, because the time you actually have for development besides doing the daily operations, and I think this is very hard. But you need to prioritize. You need to try to gain the time, because if you don't, that you will be stuck in that one automation and not creating the whole flow. And I know this is extremely difficult. I've been working with that in all the positions I've been in, that we can actually have time for development and improvements of the whole organization. And nobody is coming to help you. And that's right now. It would be IT. Can you help us fix this? Again, you need to be able to fix things yourself, and that's also why I think, okay, then start to have 1 or 2 tech people coming in and actually help you get the snowball rolling, and then hopefully get on the other side, starting to gain that 2, 3, 4% extra time, and again suddenly. Also, some of the articles I read that can actually gain 20-25% time gains automating or things, and the 20-25%, then you can actually be the human touch towards the organization, provide better service, have the talks with managers and employees, and then have the AI agent working 24 hours, doing all the other stuff. But again, you need to prompt it, you need to ask the right questions, and need to get it started. If you don't do that, then you're stuck.
One thing I really see is the big difference is that before the large language models and so on, if we in HR or TA or people in culture, we wanted something built, we needed someone who could do actual software coding.
Yeah.
While today, we can find someone who is just a bit tech savvy.
Yeah.
And then they can actually go very far just by us saying to them, I know this because I have employees doing that, where I say to them, I would love if I could have you ask me, do I build agents? No, I don't. Because I just say out loud, I need this. And then people with no software background, but enough tech savviness to be able to understand my workflow, they can now just prompt, So that's.
But you keep saying they. The really interesting thing here is, Nicklas, you can do this.
Yeah, but
even without being too tech savvy, there are so many tools today that makes it so that you can do this.
But maybe I don't have the interest.
But that's another thing,
or because I have the privilege.
Or the need, or whatnot, right?
But I think it's important that you walk the talk, and I think I would hopefully, when I get the new position, if I go and ask for, could I please, or should there be a PA as part of my organization? I mean, why not have an AI agent being your PA? Looking into your schedule, arranging your calendar and so forth, also help you with your emails. So I think as a leader, you have to go in front of the bunch, and then instead of saying that what are we looking into, I think that's an important part.
So as a leader, you need to walk the talk. You need to actually educate yourself, upskill yourself, do all the work before you can ask your employees to do it. Yeah. You can't rely on IT. But what is if it's? Let's just imagine we have people out there within HR, within employer branding, within TA. What is your best advice for them to go ahead and do today?
I think there's a lot of firms that are providing training and upskilling within this field. There's also a bunch of videos and
so many YouTube videos.
So I think you need to try and find the
really
right.
Get into a hole.
Yeah,
I promise.
And then of course, as a company. You can't go as an HR function, you can't go in your own direction saying that we are using this part. I think you need to agree that is it ChatGPT or is it other AI tools that you are using? Because again, if it at some point needs to fit together, I think you need to be within the same space. Yeah. And I've also tried being part of a very operational organization that, we bought this, we bought that system, and then suddenly IT have this huge problem with 300 different systems. And the same would be we have all these tools, but we need to stick to some tools. And then you need to become very good at these tools.
Yeah. But do you then wait for HR leadership or whoever it is to take that decision, IT, what tools we use, or do you start just building and do it? Do you go rogue a little bit in your organization if you're a leader or if you're a TA member or something? Just go ahead and do it. Is it better to just start doing it a little bit rogue and a little bit if you don't have the system, or do you wait for your organization to implement a system to tell you what tools to use? I know what personality I have.
I mean, being between jobs, I like also the that you go a little bit rogue. Yeah. But at the same time,
leader, you're also an HR leader, right? Do you want your team to go rogue? Or
no. I also like that. We have some kind of playground, and I need if you. Also want to be compliant and you want to have some kind of a governance. I think you also need that this is the space that we are playing. And I think being part of support functions together with IT, I also think in the future that IT and HR will work very close together and closer together than they do today. And if you want this approach, you also need to support each other and have a clear game plan. But again, I don't think you need to. I also mentioned this in the article. I think you should hire the best tech people. You need to get started, and instead of waiting that we have carved everything in stone, we have a completely 100% bulletproof AI strategy for the company or HR. I don't think you should wait for that. Because then you don't get started, and all the other companies will have the best tech AI people on board.
I had a quote. We had a quote from a previous person joining this podcast, Pedro from Coloplast, who said, "Don't let perfect get in the way of good." Oh. And I love that quote. Yeah. And maybe that, at least what I hear is that resonates as well.
Exactly. I think that's the main point, because I think speed here is also everything. And exactly. Don't wait for this. Yeah.
We don't have more time. I think you're sitting there. You can feel that I could keep this going forever. This is really a topic that I'm passionate about as well. But we don't have more time. So, Mads, thank you so much for joining. We have one last question. Do you want to ask it?
Nope. It's your question, and it's fantastic.
I'll go ahead. So this podcast is called the Recruitment Equation. So we want as well to hear, with the equation for getting started with AI in within HR organization now, what does that look like? What are the sort of the pillars or the building blocks you need?
I think it's 4 things. We have actually talked about these today, that you have tech, then you have trust, then you have talent, and you have time. And I think that equals getting into a stage of transformational HR. I think having tech, it's the practical AI tools integrating into your workflows, as we talked about. I think trust, creating this safe space that you want to experimentations and also transparency, agile approach to things. Then you have the talent. We've talked about that you need upskilled colleagues in your organization. Also, AI curious HR team that will lead the change. And then again, time is extremely important to develop HR and to get the snowball rolling, turn your development and gain more time for the human touch. It's about becoming more human and have more time for the human touch and work smarter alongside AI.
I think that sounds great. So if everyone just will go ahead and do that, including you, Nicklas,
yes.
Then I think there can be
some
really cool stuff happening, right? And there's so much to gain on this. Thank you so much for joining, Mads.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the conversation.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.